Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about more Suicide Squad news, including the first season for the game that has been hinted at and possibly Joker. Anyways, before we get into all of that stuff, I just wanted to kind of talk about what happened on the channel yesterday, because if some of you didn't know, I uploaded a video that got taken down by Warner Brothers. Basically, it was a leak video, and because of that, I now have one strike on my YouTube channel. So from here on out, we're not going to be covering leaks on this game, and most likely on any game in general. I did that before because I was just trying to grow the channel as much as I could, and it's basically impossible. So I was just trying to do anything I could to help it. But at this point, if something happened to this channel, I can't really restart. So I'm going to be more careful and not do that kind of stuff anymore, because I really don't want to lose this. And I know a lot of you would not be here without those kinds of videos. I will be obviously still doing any sort of news videos, gameplay videos, anything like that, including for Suicide Squad, but specifically the leaks are not going to be happening anymore. If you really want to see all the leaks, you can check out Miller on Twitter, link in description, and I'm sure that there's some other people you can find that will be talking about it on YouTube. I'm not exactly sure why they decided to take down my video, because I know there was at least 5 or 6 other channels that covered the same thing, so I'm not sure exactly why mine in particular got taken down, but it doesn't really matter. Obviously, I was the one that did the thing, and they're allowed to take the video down because I'm the one who was doing that. Alright, so anyways, sorry to get into all of that. We're going to go ahead and get started with the actual news. Alright, so today the developers had their Q&A session. Well, actually, they just had their answer session. The question session happened a few days ago, but they basically got on the official Discord and answered people's questions that they'd asked. So first up, we have this one. I've heard a few developers, Jacket mainly, mention about the build possibilities in the game. Could you guys elaborate more on the possibilities of builds for the characters? That is a most excellent question. Where to start? Well, first of all, when we designed the game, player choice and player freedom was one of our core design philosophies. We really want you to feel like you can make each character your own and build it to suit your playstyle. But if you take the leap and really play into the gear, you can find truly crazy powerful combinations. At launch, we're looking at hundreds of possible combinations and permutations for builds across our 4 characters, and this is something we're adding a lot to in the post-launch content. We're not supposed to talk about that today though, but I'm really excited for you all to see the cool stuff we've got cooking. When it comes to build construction, we have quite a few elements we consider to be core parts. First and foremost, we have the gear and our 8 loadout slots. Then we have our afflictions, each developed by Poison Ivy using a DC character's power. Deep Freeze, Diablo Blaze, Livewire Bolt, and Venom Frenzy. Afflictions can be applied to your melee weapons and later on in the game to your grenade. Then we have each character's talent tree, which is the backbone of each character's playstyle. Harley is very acrobatic and loves explosions, and her talent tree reflects this. Deadshot is highly precise and proficient with his weapons, so you'll find lots of critical hit talents and counter talents. Shark is our powerhouse, so you'll find lots of ways of dominating enemies with his powerful melee strikes in his talent tree. Finally, Boomerang is the trickster and the most all-round character, but there's lots of talents that leverage his variable and fast traversal to quickly close the range to enemies and then quickly get back to mid/long range. Then we have the character's traversal mechanics plus their traversal attacks and suicide strikes, which all have their own flavor for each character. For anyone unaware, the suicide strikes that they mention are basically their takedowns for the game. Then we have each character's weapon loadout. Each character has 3 weapons types they are allowed to use from our 6 weapon types: assault rifles, pistols, sniper rifles, shotguns, SMGs, and heavy weapons, which includes miniguns and LMGs. Now, that's a long way to say there's a lot of depth for you all to explore, especially in the endgame, and lots of different ways to master the game and change the way you play. So we don't want to spoil the exploration of builds in the game too much, but I think we can at least mention a few early in-game build favorites that are making their rounds within the dev team. The slow-mo crits is one where you when you use 2 specific items as opener, the Great Suspender melee weapon to launch enemies into the air in slow motion, paired with the Slow and Steady grenade that launches any enemy up into the air in slow motion but does no damage, the Turkey Shoot firearm is a great finisher for this build, since it does guarantee critical hits to enemies in a slow motion. This is an especially powerful build in co-op where one can focus on setting up enemies and one can focus on burning them down with damage while they're caught in slow motion. There's also a boomerang talent that sends enemies up in slow motion on melee crits, so worth keeping an eye out for that one. Then there's some debate going around additional items to make their build really shine. Some go for Dr. Crits, an item that generates shield on critical hits. Some go for Hit and Run, an item that gives traversal attack resource on critical hits. For players who want to swap out the Turkey Shoot firearm, they could lean into the Livewire Bolt Affliction instead, as a way to get the guaranteed crits to happen while enemies are in slow motion, and swap in the Super Spreader firearm, which spreads any active affliction on a kill to nearby enemies. Another favorite in the studio is the Bang It Up. Not the most creative of names, I'd admit, but it's pretty deceptive. The build revolves around getting the Bang Grenade and does a crazy amount of damage, but you can only carry 1 grenade at a time. This is paired with the Bullet Propelled Grenade firearm, which drops Live Grenade on critical hits, alongside the Exploding Grace Traversal mod, which drops a live grenade when you do a skilled landing. This means you get 2 ways to drop a free Bang Grenade. Most also pair this with the Prison Pinata melee weapon, which drops grenade ammo on shield harvesting kills as a consistent way to get grenade ammo. Reading all of this stuff, it sounds like they put in the right amount of depth into the gear system of weapons and such, because a big issue with a lot of games that have something like this, I personally liked Gotham Knights a lot, but there wasn't a lot of variety and fun combinations to the gear and stuff, to where the gear just kind of felt shoved and forced into the game. But here it feels like that's really just a core part of the game and they really put a lot of effort into it. Then someone asked, is there a tier above Notorious gear? And they said, thank you for the question. I assume from all the caps, I assume that you are passionate about loot as we are. The different rarities of gear in our game are common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, notorious, and infamy sets. Common to epic increase in power in the number of and the possible number of augments available, but legendary, notorious, and infamy is when we really turn up the heat. Every legendary item in the game has a unique augment that changes the way you play in some way. The Cooler, a sniper rifle that freezes on a critical hit, or the Combo Meal firearms, which give you a max combo on a successful critical counter, or my personal favorite, Bang, a legendary grenade, which they kind of talked about earlier. Infamy sets are brutally powerful sets of gear themed around the most iconic and threatening villains in the DC universe. These gain unique effects the more pieces of a set you have equipped and designed to synergize with legendary and notorious gear. Notorious gear is some of the rarest and, in my opinion, coolest items in the game, all themed after DC villains, both in how they look and their gameplay effects. They completely change the way you play, often requiring you to build around them to get the most out of their unique power. In in-game builds, you will most likely be using a mix of legendary, notorious, and infamy sets to deck out your squad member. Each build will require that you play the game differently to get the most out of it. When you find that build that suits the character you want to play, and the way you want to play the character, you can create some pretty outlandish combinations that I think feel great to play. One of the core design philosophies of the game was to create a gear system that doesn't linearly, I can't say that for some reason, increase in power and have a clear path to the optimal item, but to create items that have wild and game-changing effect that must be actively engaged with to find the most powerful strategies and overcome the toughest encounters. Very happy about this, because something that's super annoying in games like this that do have gear is when you finally get something that's powerful looking, it's a legendary or whatever, and then it's like level 10 and the max level is like 50. You don't want that. You don't want that 10. So it's just really nice to see that they are not going to be having it like that. In that spirit, one of the biggest changes we've made over the last year is to remove gear score from the game. This change means that player who find, for example, a legendary weapon they just love early on in the game can use it without fear that they're shooting themselves in the foot, as it were, by not equipping a different gun with a higher gear score. Okay, I actually hadn't read that next part yet, but that's funny that that's almost exactly what I just said. The challenge then becomes exploring how you want to play the game and find gear that synergizes with that or lean into changing the way you play the game to get the most out of the gear you already have. A big part of our endgame is to theory craft which gear pieces that can synergize and how to construct build. It's one of the things I'm really excited about when we launch the game, seeing what crazy builds you all come up with. The weapons in this game genuinely sound amazing. I mean, the fact that they have weapons that do just different on kill, on crit effects is great, and something that sounds super simple but adds so much depth to the game, especially because the way that you can combine different sets of gear, like how they mentioned before. So really excited about that. All right, here's the next question. Are there any plans past characters reaching max level, like a prestige system or something like that down the line? A most excellent question. To start with, each member of the squad has their own unique talent trees, 3 for each character with 10 tiers within that tree. These provide powerful upgrades to different playstyles, as well as an interesting choice as to how you want to play your squad members. That said, we really want to reward you if you want to keep playing the game past reaching max level with a character. Once level 30 is reached on a squad member, you will unlock the squad talents. What? This is a shared group of upgrades between all your squad members regardless of their level. There are a lot of these, and for the squad levels, they are actually infinite. Wait, what? They are actually infinite and there is no real level cap. You can freely respec squad talents the same as regular talents at almost any time. These also add yet another layer of customizability for different playstyles and builds, but where the talent tree provides you with more game and playstyle defining traits, the squad levels are geared more toward specialization with specific weapon types or game mechanic. Each squad member's level counts towards your total squad level, and the higher the squad level, the more squad talents are available. For those of you who are especially astute, that means that if you level up all your characters, you get additional squad levels really quickly. And that of course also applies to the characters we add post-launch. But we're not talking about those today, sorry. Holy crap. Okay, usually with games they add that kind of stuff post-launch, but the fact that they're going to launch the game with this built in, that's amazing. Oh, okay, sorry. So clearly movement will be a huge factor in the game. What was the process like balancing out each character so that they feel different but not overpowered compared to the others? You're absolutely right, traversal is a huge part of our game, both in terms of gameplay and the squad's personalities. We wanted to give each squad member a traversal style that made them feel unique, powerful, and that made sense for their character. Most importantly, felt fun moment to moment, which I will say, as someone who's played the alpha, they all feel great. Although I will say Harley felt slightly slow, but I think that there's also upgrades that you can get with the traversal mod, so I don't know how exactly that would be in the real game. This is also just at the forefront of the decisions we make. Does just traversing through the world feel fun? Does this feel good in your hands? For example, take King Shark. We knew early on that due to his size and weight, we really wanted this to come across in how he moved. When we started designing his moveset, we actually were using animal references, rhinoceroses, elephants, to try and convey the sense of rampaging, destructive force that builds with momentum. We believe his traversal really captures that sense of animalistic power. When you build up speed, smash through a group of enemies, then leap high into the air, and then come crashing down onto some other unsuspecting enemy, it just feels good. I will say, King Shark's my favorite character in the game. His slam ability is just super satisfying. Or Harley, who comes with an exception of acrobatics and flowing movement. We wanted to add a twist to that with the bat drone and grapple gun as a unique form of movement. And either a grudging nod of respect to Batman from her or a middle finger depending on how you see it. Though practically, this was done so we could give her a traversal mechanic that supported swinging and grappling without having to rely solely on having tall buildings everywhere or structures at all. In order for Harley to get around, the ability to use the moment from a grapple into a swing into a dive, into an even faster swing, all without having to touch solid ground. And in terms of balancing them all gameplay-wise, we're in a really good place now where they all feel powerful and excel at different things, which in turn we hope will match players' own different styles and preferences. For example, Deadshot's ability to create vantage points in space by hovering makes sniping very effective, whereas Boomer's instant dash makes him perfect for smash and grab style tactics where he can get in, smash, then get out. Being able to seamlessly blend between traversal and combat moment to moment and making this feel impactful was always at the forefront of our decisions. One of the more challenging sides, however, is managing the speeds of the characters and how they work not only with each other, but the game itself. Harley, for the longest time, just wouldn't get in line with the rest. Very much on brand as always. Having a very deep traversal system, she was a lot of room for skill expression in the hands of an experienced player. Unfortunately, the skill they wish to express was swinging so fast they break the game. That's interesting. Balancing this so all the characters are in line with each other for launch and year one, whilst also making them all feel fun, has been challenging, but feel they are all in a really good place. Across the dev team, everyone has a different favorite character and alt to use, which I feel really speaks to the work we've done to keep them all balanced. It's an ongoing debate as to who is the best, which is ridiculous, as it's obviously Shark. I completely agree with Johnny here. Shark is definitely the best. Also, I'm wondering if maybe the fact that Harley felt slow in the alpha was literally so that the alpha would function, because it was an alpha, so obviously it wasn't completely finished, so maybe they scaled it back just so it would run in the alpha, and then maybe the full game it's faster? I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, can you swap characters at any time in the game? Can you swap in both co-op and single player? Are skill trees points shared between characters if you swap them? And if you have a skill point and use it on a character, is it still available for the other characters if you can swap them? You can swap to a different squad member anytime you're out of combat. In a 2-player session, you each have a bot character that you can switch to. In a 3-player session, the session owner gets the honor of having an additional character they can switch to. When you're in a 4-player co-op session, you will have to travel to the Hall of Justice to switch character. You can also change your whole squad lineup no matter the number of players when you are in the Hall of Justice. If you are playing single player, we also have our Psyched Up feature, where a certain squad member will be psyched up for a specific mission. For example, Boomer has a lot of history with Penguin, so when you recruit him for Waller, he's psyched up to get to see Penguin again. Of course, Penguin doesn't remember him at all, which is a funny little gag they do. If you play the mission as a psyched up squad member, that character does extra damage and takes less damage, and will also gain a massive XP boost from that. So I'd highly suggest on those missions to play as the character that it says. I think another example is from one of the insiders is that the Poison Ivy mission Harley is psyched for, which makes sense. I think the Riddler mission King Shark is psyched up for because he's a big fan of Riddler. Each time a character levels up, you get 1 skill point to spend on that character's talent tree. All squad members have separate XP levels and talent trees because we didn't want you to have to constantly manage each character's talent tree as soon as you switch them because you have points left to spend. However, as mentioned earlier, past level 30 when you unlock the squad talents, those are shared between all squad members. Alright, will there be any free roam? Will there be collectibles after you complete the game? We already actually know this. There will be free roam after to carry out your mission. The squad will have access to the entirety of Metropolis. There will be side missions, enemies patrolling the city, iconic Metropolis landmarks, and plenty of hidden and not so hidden Easter eggs for you to find. There will also be plenty of collectibles. The Riddler has made his way to Metropolis. He's pissed that he wasn't recruited for this mission and wants to prove his superior intellect. He is testing the squad both physically and mentally. He set up AR courses to test your prowess in traversal. If you get around the courses quick enough, you'll wind up Riddler and also be rewarded with some free outfit pieces for the squad members. I don't think that was typed right. Riddles are back to test your skills, blah, blah. And there are trophies. It wouldn't be in the Arkhamverse without Riddler trophies. So, that was kind of worded a little weird. I think I also just misspoke a lot there. So I just want to say what I'm going to elaborate. There's riddles you can scan, just like in the Arkham games. There's trophies you can pick up, just like in the Arkham games. And there is rings that you can go through the air and stuff in these traversal challenges. Alright, I feel like I did a better job at that than reading that. Will we see the environment change as the seasons progress? Most definitely. This is something we knew we all wanted from the start, to be able to keep Metropolis evolving along with our players, and seeing how Brainiac has the ability to phase in portions of other worlds. Ain't that interesting? Metropolis is a constantly shifting battlefield, and as your battle with Brainiac and the Justice League progresses, you can expect the city to change along with it. Not only across the duration of the story, but also post-launch as well. This was very important for us in the dev team, to be able to create a city which players could experience, enjoy, learn all the best routes through, and then be able to switch things up on them. So you'll have to make sure you get your bearings, as what you were previously used to navigating by may not be there next time. Super interesting. Really excited about that. Is it true that my squad of friends can select my character when I'm not playing? So this was mentioned in one of the previews. And if my squad takes my character with them, I can also get mission loot and experience. I'm really excited about this. It doesn't work quite like that. If anything, it's much better, as you're not just limited to your friends, and that person can also be online when you get their characters into your squad. We call this feature Social Squad. With Social Squad, if you're playing alone and you're not planning on playing certain members of the squad, you can replace those squad members with those of other players. And as we mentioned before, they don't even need to be your friends. If you want, you can go to the leaderboards and find the best players in the world and get their characters into your squad. Or maybe you have a favorite streamer and want their character in your squad. So if y'all guys want my King Char or Carly or whatever to be in your squad, you can do that. You can have the literal best players in the world be in your squad if you want. Social Squad teammates will keep all of the gear, cosmetics, and talents that their original owners have equipped, just as if you have joined them in a co-op session. It's a really interesting way of getting that feeling of playing with others, even though you're just chilling in a solo session. I think this is a great feature, especially if you're not feeling super social at the moment, but you still kind of want to play with people. You can do this. He also said the original owners also get a kickback if their characters are used in someone else's squad. When they next jump in the game, they will receive a small portion of the resources and loot you've earned while playing. This is separate from the rewards you earn yourself, so it doesn't take away from the loot you've earned while playing. So you're not sacrificing any of the stuff you've earned or anything. Alright, and now it's time for our last question. What will the endgame be like? I love this question because endgame is one of the things I'm most excited about to share with you all, but I'm also worried that I'm going to get tackled by our community team for writing an essay on this topic, so I'll try to break it down into smaller segments. After you've completed the main story, endgame is a huge, constantly evolving, challenging experience for you to put your skills to the test. Our core philosophy for endgame was essentially mastery of your character, traversal, talents, enemy types, mission mechanics, and of course, your choice of build. And as the difficulty increases, you will have to find new builds to overcome these challenges. That's why we have 3 distinct tiers of infamy sets in endgame, all themed around an iconic DC character. For launch, the character is Bane, and his infamy sets are all themed around different ways of dominating your enemies and harnessing the chaos around you. We have a somewhat chaotic game with a constantly changing battlefield with lots of things going on. This game is frantic and fast-paced, and we've purposely made it to feel like the squad is always surrounded in the middle of chaos. And mastery of the game comes from you harnessing that chaos and using it to your strength, turning the very thing Brainiac is throwing at you right back at him. Because our game is chaotic and because we wanted our endgame to lean into build construction as well as mastery of mechanics, we've made our endgame revolve around a core backbone of mission types that provide a more predictable experience and challenge. But that doesn't mean that Brainiac is just going to sit back and let you go head-to-head with his forces without throwing a spanner in the works, or that you know what's going to happen in each mission. Brainiac keeps evolving his forces throughout the endgame, and you'll have to adapt your builds to match this. There are several types of missions, from the snappier incursion missions where the poor squad is sent into Brainiac's domain under the protection of a very fickle Prometheum shield that protects you from a skull ship, tentacles, as well as the full force of Brainiac's army. The squad have to fight their way through Brainiac's forces, often with the help of the support squad, to make it back to Metropolis. But once the mission is complete, the Prometheum shield goes down, so the squad has to leg it. Waller's really not doing the squad any favors here, and she seems intent on emphasizing the suicide and suicide mission. Then we have the more grand killing time missions, where the squad is battling an increasingly frantic horde of Brainiac's enemies, and they have to keep killing enemies to fuel the Prometheum shield because once it goes down, there's no hiding from the skull ship's tentacles. As the difficulty levels go up, so do the rewards, and we have some quite frankly insane infamy sets and notorious items that are earned from the highest tier of endgame. That paired with the global leaderboards for solo, 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player groups mean that there's plenty of friendly competition to go around, and if you want some tips on how to build your character, the leaderboards will be a good place to scout around, so it looks like you'll be able to look at other people's builds. Now, all of this is huge news. Really sounds great. The last section where they were talking about how the shield goes down and you have to run to the extraction point, there is a point in the alpha where you actually got to do that, and it is kind of insane just because of the fact that there's lots of enemies and you basically are just forced to run at the last second, which is kind of fun. Now, there was one last thing that they announced, and this was this post-launch picture that they released. And when you click on it, I'm going to zoom in. We've got Harley on the left, it looks like. And then we've got a huge building, and it's the Daily Planet, or rather, Daily Planet called the Daily Chuckle. Really interesting. You'll see the nutcrackers from the Arkham City game, from the steel mill. And then if someone pointed out, if you zoom in on the little newspaper stack on the right, you can see a picture of a Joker. Now, this is not the Joker from the Arkham games. It seems like it's going to be completely different. Anyways, that is going to be it for the video. This was super long, way longer than I expected. I did want to go over basically everything. There was some other stuff where they kind of talked about the characters' personalities, but I feel like we kind of already know a lot of that, so I just kind of skipped over that. But if you did enjoy and you want more Suicide Squad news, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. And I will see you guys next time.